So, hi everyone. Welcome to my podcast, People, Their Passion and Purpose. Today, I'm with my friend Orit Eisenberg. You're going to learn a lot about her. She is an extraordinary woman, a serial entrepreneur. She has two beautiful daughters, and she's in a new relationship with someone. She's also starting a new life coaching business, and she's into a lot of self-discovery, learning so much about herself, and to improve her life, to help others improve their lives. And it's just, she's on a really wonderful journey. So, welcome, Marie. Thanks for taking your time today.
Thank you,
Good.
Charlene. It was such a nice intro. Warms my heart. It's really, yeah, this
Good.
is very exciting. It's really
Yeah,
fun to share and I love what you're doing. I
good.
love the whole peace, people, passion, purpose. It's really important for everybody to kind of be vulnerable and share, and then it inspires people. So I'm really thankful and thank you for having me because I hope, my story and the things that I've learned can help others.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And you have
yeah.
many, many facets to your life. So, I'm sure we'll be talking again.
Oh,
But for now, today we're going to really focus on your entrepreneurial journey
yeah. Yeah.
and some of the things that you've discovered along the way about yourself, what you found out about yourself, what you've learned, and some of your different businesses. So, why don't we
Hmm.
start with how you started your first business, the one with
Okay.
your products,
Yeah.
right?
Well, so
Yeah.
before we dive in, and I know we're gonna have, if I go off on a tangent, Charlene, I'm not one that does podcasts. Just cut me off, and we'll get back to it, okay? Because there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of little life lessons that I have had on my journey, and certain things in business that I'd love to share that could shed light on other people when they're going through things, or we're forever learning, and I have been down a path, I would say, in the last 4 years, really actually when COVID kind of hit, where I've been on this self-discovery, um, self-awareness journey, tapping into the resources that were slowly out there. And the more I got in, the more I started to learn more about myself, learn more about all the things and the tools that I did in my business, why I made decisions in my business, where the pressures were coming, um, and how I navigated my career life, my personal life, and my spiritual life, and raising and staying healthy and having enough time for myself. So all of this took me along into a journey of a career that I think is successful for me because I've learned so much. I'm still in the process of it. I'm forever going to be an entrepreneur. I never really thought myself as to be an entrepreneur until it was told to me, like, Orit, you're an entrepreneur. And I was like, am I? Oh, okay. I've been in this for X amount of years. It's all glamorous when you use the word entrepreneur. It's all glamorous when you say you own your own business, but it ain't that glamorous all the time because I mean you understand. I mean, when you own your own company, that comes along with a lot of pressure and a lot of response. It's another child, and there are many nights where you lose sleep on how to navigate and make the right decisions because it's a forever revolving economy, and it's a lot of finance, and then there's a whole, relationship with money in the business, and how you look at it, and how you view it, and how you decide to spend it, and then learning how to navigate if you're going into a new business. So all that to say, this last 4 or 5 years, I have, without even realizing, through my self-discovery, have shifted in my career.
Okay.
And still in the entrepreneur, I still own my product business because
Yes.
I've been doing it for over 30 years. And I also, in that process, in the last decade, patented a utility product, which was a huge learning curve for me, and then did a
Mm-hmm.
startup business, which I would say in the last 5 years, which I really started it up, is still in the startup business.
Mm-hmm.
And seek for financing, and went down the whole learning curve of what it is to be approaching VC world, and writing capital decks and business plans and making a financial plan. It was a journey of mine in the last 2, 3 years. And then I went into the career of self discovery. And I say career because, which we can dive into this in another time, into self discovery, which took me into a passion of mine due to my personal life and due to the forces of being having such loss and face so much death and trauma. Trauma is a big word, but I did face a lot of family trauma that still I have been working through in regards to helping a lot of other families who go through loss and go through pivot and change. And it is something that I've been doing for over a decade. I have not been doing it as a career because, again, I didn't consider myself, like I never considered myself an entrepreneur. I never considered myself to be a life coach. It's just out of the passion of wanting to share and help people and understand by asking the right questions to help them navigate their own life. Because my experience are my experiences, but what other people are going through are all, every trauma, everybody has trauma, but everybody's trauma is different, and their family and what their capabilities are different. So life coaching has been my new launch.
Right.
And something that I truly hope to make it part. It's only a small part of my life right now because I still am a believer in my entrepreneur business. So I'm navigating two careers right now. But when I do find I have room, I have a couple of clients, but I only have room for a couple more that I will work with this year. But it's a transition
Mm-hmm.
as I educate myself more, as I'm going into a whole world of so many like somatic healing. I'm looking to study. I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking to study and to deepen my awakening and deepen my self-discovery and entrench myself into this inner world of inner balance, understanding oneself, understanding what triggers are, how to be self-aware and live in an awakening state always. And it's a tough one. It's like exercise. You can't be at the top of your game always. Life is constantly moving, but it is a practice, and I've now learned it, and I just want to share what I've learned and what I'm further going to educate and explore, especially with you, Charlene, learning to also feed ourselves properly, because it's a holistic view of life.
Right.
You have to look at every part of you before you can be good for anybody else. And so that's a small little
Right.
sharing in terms of the life coaching career. And we can dive into that into our next topic, in our next more conversations. But should I talk about the product industry?
Yeah, I think that, first of all, what I want to say is that it's interesting that you are going to have both sides of life now, that entrepreneurial go, 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 this and that. But then there's also that other side of learning about yourself, learning how you relate to people, relate to things, how you react to things, to help you better your daily experience, basically, and to help the others around you have a very good day as well, and a good experience as well. So, and you're going to bring that into your businesses. So that's, yeah, so I think
Incredible tools. Incredible tools. I can't
so
tell you how much
for,
it helped
yeah,
me.
so for people that are entrepreneurs in business, um, what can you, well, maybe talk a little bit about your, your journey as an entrepreneur, but also maybe the things that you know now that maybe you wished you would have known, if you have anything
Mm-hmm.
like that to help people.
Absolutely.
I think that would be important. I think it's important to add the two together,
Yeah.
because that's what's, very interesting. And you can maybe talk a little bit about that. That would be great.
Okay. And if I go up, because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
lots of
There's
there's
lots.
lots.
There's lots. I
Yeah.
know.
Now it's I don't want to sound negative. There's lots, because sometimes I feel like, oh my goodness, someone said to me the other day, like how do you have time to do what you do? And I said, it's not. It's just been part of me. It's what I've been
Yeah.
doing for so long. So I was not an entrepreneur. I was actually a stay-at-home mom for a period of time when my kids were really, really young. Let me rephrase that. I was an entrepreneur before because I was in my industry in my 20s. Right out of university, I come from a group of entrepreneurs. My father was in business, my brother went into business, and I went right into sales at age 21. And I had large programs where I worked with Bell Canada and I did Labatt's. I remember I was at every Budweiser, I did all their promotional products. So I went right in at age 24, pre-marriage, selling in the promotional products industry, which was a big growing industry at the time of branded product. So any marketing that was happening, Gillette was my client, Seagram's, where I did on-pack programs for Corby's, and I got into the import at a young age. I had people importing for me at the time, but I was a self-starter at age 24. I had my own office. I had no clients given to me. I had to cold call, and I just went for it. And I got, I want to say luck, but a bit of just hard work, law of averages in sales. So when you're in business, you always look at the numbers. You always look at what you're going to be able to close, what you're not, because it's the bottom line. So as a salesperson, I was trained at a young age that if I don't reach out to 10, 15 a day, I'm not going to close anything. I'll get lucky. I used to tape, this is my manifesting, which will go back of what I used to do and not realizing it was my manifesting. I would leave my office every day and I'd tape it on a piece of paper and sticky of the 6 top closing projects I was working on. And the ones that I felt were near, I would kind of like move them around. And it usually be like sometimes the one that I would never think I'd close. Dunkin' Donuts was one of the clients that I worked for so long to get their coffee mugs. And this was out of the States and I had to do, and it was a massive order. I was a young little kid, like what did I know? I was like, there's no way I'm getting this order. And I was working out so much harder, and that was the one I got, and the other 4 I didn't. So it's law of averages, and it's going with the journey of sales. And I was thrown in at a young age to work with people. And not only that, this is where life coaching comes in. You start as a salesperson really learning about human behavior. You start learning quickly to ask questions. You start quickly to listen to the cues. If you want to know where you're supposed to bring your product. Like if somebody wants this pen, there's a lot of details to this pen. And there's a lot of things that you need to think about in terms of packaging, what type of ink, and what materials it's made on, what price point you have to hit, how many units, are you going to repeat it or you're not. So all these things were like a fast training, and I worked, I did well, I got pregnant, I got married to Jeffrey, and I got pregnant right away, and I went right into the, we were old school, right away, like stay home, raise the kids,
Right.
had my little office in the basement, and sure enough, after a year of my daughter was born, I had one client asking me, would you sell to me representing a company? And I said, sure, why not? It was Avon at the time. So I went to do programs, and I kind of always worked, but it was not my main priority, my kids and being a home and a housewife and um, domesticated I was.
So
And then,
I think Orit, it was really interesting when you said you were even manifesting back then. Like you maybe you didn't realize it, you know? So I'm sure that now that we're listening to this, we're going back into our everyone's that's listening is saying like, oh, okay, so what am I doing to manifest without realizing what I'm doing, you know? So
well,
that's one really, really good example. You know,
I will
going
share. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
no,
sorry.
I just want to stick with the reason for the podcast is always like I'm always going back to passion and purpose. So, you had a passion to sell, right? Like what is your passion
Oh,
about selling or creating a business or like do you know where that fire comes from, you know? And then we'll
I think
talk about that purpose that it gives you.
I think it comes from my family. I
Okay.
really do. My father was a big doer.
Okay.
you know. And I was brought up, if you don't ask, you don't get, or like he
Right.
used to say, like if you don't go work, you don't do. I mean, at age 14, 15, I was right away working. Certain things I got lucky. I had a very blessed childhood. I was really, really, I'm very, very grateful. I'm very grateful for all my trauma too, in a corny way, in my sad way. And I can get
Mm.
a little sad for that because there was so much loss. But um, the beauty of the purpose is, and this I have learned in the self-discovery, and when we're talking about the manifesting, is that a lot of what I'm very spiritual, I always have been. And I love people. I
Mm-hmm.
love socializing. I thrive on going into places, especially when people know me. I
Mm-hmm.
know program. When I walk into get my coffee, they're like, we're eating. They know exactly. I'm going back. I get suckered in. You give a little love, I'm going to give love right back.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been like that always.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also been a very in tuned into which I will tell you, when it was not in to manifest, and it was people, meditation was not a word. We didn't have Instagram. We didn't. I did so many affirmations for my family, my kids at age 2 and 3. I had a blackboard in the kitchen. We used to write positive quotes. We used to do, I wouldn't say gratitude because we didn't use the word gratitude. Best part of the day, worst part of the day. And I'd say, okay, tell me what happened. You know, the slogan on in my house in the, are you talking about 2001 was like, we would say, you know, never carry a heavy heart if something's bothering. So a lot of these things that are being implemented in careers and retreats that are all about, you know, journeys and energy, and is all stuff that was a purpose and a balance and what I always had in me. I didn't define it, and there were practices that I implemented in my career, and practices that I implemented in my home life while my husband was sick. I just didn't know it until I studied it and said, wow, another word for Reiki and another word of different journeys or different things I did with my little kids at a young age that I'm so thankful. It's like I had a little angel over me saying, Orit, feng shui, I would keep a lot of things in my house, and it's going to sound even in terms of energy. A lot of things, even when I did my own garden and I planted, I made sure there was 10 rocks, not 9. You know, it was just things that made me feel the vibrations of what was around. I paid attention to me and the needs that I needed to make things work so I could give properly.
Okay, so now, amazing, very interesting. I didn't know all this. And now I want you to take that and bring it into your one of your businesses. How did you take that? Okay, yeah, great. So talk about Mena and talk about all that in terms of Mena.
Okay, Mena has been something that it's taken a lot of my heart and a lot of pain too, because it's a business that there are days where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. How do I walk away? Do I throw in the towel? Because it's been time is all our resources and energy and money and building, but I have a belief that I can't let go of. So when I started to go back into Interconcept, when Jeffrey got really sick, and I'm going to share this, when after his third suicide attempt, and I knew our family was falling apart, and that's something we'll discuss a little later. I knew that my husband's world was coming down, and I did not know how to protect it and protect him, because the disease, just people who are watching this, Jeffrey had depression and bipolar disorder, and we battled through the system at a time where it was really, you know, it was difficult. So I then, you know, part of me was like, you know, Jeffrey always believed in my sales. He was my big fan in terms of my work and business. We talked all the time. I was definitely a to-go-to person for him on decisions and so forth. He wanted me to go into real estate, and I was like, I know products. I went right back into promotional products, but I went right into importing and designing product. I'm very visual, and I know how to sketch product, and I know how to buy molds, and I knew how to create product. So it's what I knew, and I knew that I wanted to make money.
Yeah.
I wanted to afford camps, and I wanted to afford to maintain the nut, which was a big nut that we had, so my kids would not miss a beat, because they were missing a part of the guilt and the pressure of having an ill father, knowing that he may not survive.
Right.
But this bipolar and what we went through, I used to call it the last 4 years of his life like stage 4 cancer, because he was in and out. So I right away started my company, 2009, 2010. And I went to trade shows, and I started to get my network out there, and then I started getting back into product development. Mena, in 2014, I started to get really strong in 2010, 11, and 12 in my hydration. I went back into drinkware because I had done drinkware for the distillers, and I was strong in glassware factories in China and ceramic. And I couldn't go to China myself because I was taking care of my husband at the time and my kids, and a lot was going on. So I had found a partner who would go to China for me and make these strong relationships with my Chinese partners in factories. And I learned quickly on where to get partners and not do it solely by myself, on how to really get the right product, the right molding companies, and then the right brands who would repeat the orders. And
So
I
I
got
I I want to interrupt for a second because I just want to make sure like that you're so what you're saying is first of all, part of why you started Mena was because Jeffrey was not doing well. You felt that he might not, you felt your family was falling apart, and you felt you needed to step up.
that's
And
right.
so your original, family upbringing and stuff like that was there to that little thing inside of you to push you to do that. Then another interesting thing I'm noticing is that as you're talking, you're saying that like you knew you couldn't go on your own. So you knew yourself. You knew what you
Yeah.
needed. You said, "No, I cannot do this myself. I need partners to do this." So you were good to yourself in that way. You were saying, "Okay,
I
I
had,
know, right? Like I know I need to do this, but I know I can't do it alone. So
mhm,
this is what I'm going to do."
mhm.
And you had enough trust in somebody to be able to do that for you,
I had
with
no
you.
choice. I had no choice at the time. As a business person, I am today direct with my partners in factories, and I do go to China because time is by my side. But at that time,
Yeah,
time was not by me. I was a mother first and foremost, and I
yeah,
was a wife, ex-wife. I was going through a bunch of stuff.
yeah.
But I knew, yes, the reason I went into my industry, and this is where I'm going to talk about passion. My passion was sales, and I knew that I had a good eye on product. My clients all knew it. They all stuck with me. I always got a call, Orit, what color would you choose? Where should I go? And I never like, why do they ask me? I didn't study this. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, this and change that. And my engineers knew, oh, we're gonna send this prototype. Orit's gonna know something. I'm particular. Something's wrong. We're gonna have to redo it 3 times. Sure enough. But yes, family. This is going holistically. Life, career, decisions are made due to other variables. A lot of people think it's just because of one. It's not. You need to balance it all out in order to be the proper you, in order to make things happen.
Hmm.
And if you don't have the resources at the time, you have to outsource that. So I
Hmm.
did. But MENA started the year Jeffrey passed, the
Hmm.
idea.
Hmm.
And the survival that I had to go through in my mind, okay, and the fear set me on a quest that I didn't even realize I was on probably until 5 years after. And it was a journey beyond,
Hmm.
because if I look back at what I did those 5 years, I'm exhausted thinking about it.
Hmm.
But I don't know where the energy came from. So I went right into flying to, used to go to the houseware shows, and I had a lot of tea companies that were my clients, and I was creating tea infusers and designing travel mugs. And I was a big supplier for a lot of, like, Keurig is one of my clients, a lot of companies who had product for resale. And that's what brands do. Brands go to companies like me. It's not a promotional product, it's private label, to produce and to handle all the production overseas, to make sure that they have the product that would be selling to, whether it's a Costco on pack program or an online program. And these products would stay on for X amount of years as their product line, whether it's a spoon or a mug or a canister or whatever it is. So I had started to do products for brands for Target. So I was not creating, I wasn't a brand myself. I was working with the designers and getting them what they wanted. One of the shows in 2014, I started to see how there was so many different tea infusers, but there was no such a thing as controlling your steep. And it was amazing because it took me probably, I came back, and as I was working with my engineer, I was like, how do people, with tea is the second most drunk beverage worldwide, how is there that nowhere in the entire world, especially in Asia, that you have to sit with a timer and an infuser, and the biggest issue with infusion is getting the right amount of time, and half the people are making their tea bitter. So at that point, I was like, I'm on to something, you know? And
But
I saw,
I have a question for
yeah,
you. When you were traveling, like when after Jeffrey passed and you were traveling and you were building this business, okay? And you said to yourself, like you just told us, you were so exhausted, like just thinking about it. What kept you going?
my kids,
There you go. That's what I want
honestly.
to know. Because that's what
That's
this show
all
is
I got.
about. That's what this show is
Yeah,
about. It's
yeah.
about your steeping and it's about the tea and it's about your, but what is it? It's your kids. Okay, so
It's my kids. It's
yeah.
building a life that I wanted. I was very organized. I was
Mm-hmm.
very diligent in making sure that I could be everywhere and do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also an entrepreneur. I look at the bottom line. I've
Mm-hmm.
always done. I look at the bottom line and I would say I reevaluate my, you know, I'm going to interject on about Lynn Twist. You know how we're launching The Soul of Money
Yeah.
and how money is, she's just a phenomenal. I did her workshop and we both did it. And money is a current. It's a currency. It's water.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
comes in and it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a time where it's flowing in, and then there's moments where it's just feel like it's leaking, and you're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
where is it going to come from? And then all of a sudden, you start to have streams. I used to manifest and visualize streams of which orders would come, so I would be able to send my daughter on March of the Living, or I'd be able to maintain keeping my home because I had a mortgage, and I was a single dwelling, single income,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a lot of pride and I just didn't want to fall. So, yes, when I say my passion was my kids, but it was being the leader for my kids. It's being, when Jeffrey passed, his desk chair for the first 2 years was right across my desk as if he was sitting with me. In my head, I was taking on the reins of what we needed to do to provide for my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize the learning lesson, the drive, the passion, the purpose, but also the self-esteem that I got.
Mm-hmm.
With all the heartache and the pain I cried many nights where I did not want to take night flights. I felt like drab. I was walking through shows exhaustion. I'm like, we all self-doubt. We all have this, imposter syndrome at times. Like, what am I doing? How did I get here? But the more I would do it, the more I'm like, ah, freaking I know this. It feels
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah.
And then coming and saying, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to afford, I'd have to sit down. And this was a big lesson from my girls too, because they'd sit and listen to me in the car while I
Mm-hmm.
was, I'm like, okay, I'm going on this call. I have to find out the price from the, and then I negotiate the price to make sure that I can get it for the next client. And then I'd come home and I'd sit with the laptop in bed and I'd have them in bed with me. But they knew, like they asked a lot, like, could I be able to do this, or would I be able to go to, on a trip that or exchange, or I said, you know what, let's discuss this in 3 months. And they're like, why 3 months? I was like, that's the flow of water, by the way. That's the currency. I was like, I'm envisioning, but let me just see the feeling that I got. There's days you're confident and you've got it all and you're still with the same amount of money in the bank. And there's days where you're like, oh my God, I'm failing. Depends on that day and
Mm-hmm.
how you can give to your children and give to your life and
Mm-hmm.
reap the rewards from it and spoil yourself a bit. But you also get grateful. Like there are moments where I sat down and I say, okay, I don't have the answers. I don't know if this business is going to work. I don't know if I'm wasting another 20, 30, 40, with men I put in a lot. I don't
Right.
want to, and there's mornings where I say, if it's not, it was worth it for the experience and what I've learned. I'm so grateful. I
Yeah.
appreciated every no I got.
Mm.
Because every time I got a no, I was like, well, what should I do different?
Right. It's
It's
always a
so,
lesson. It's a lesson.
it is, it
Yeah.
is. And I don't think I appreciated it as much as I do now because of the self-awareness. What I'm learning now is reflective on how I handle my business. And every
Mm-hmm.
single time in the life coaching, one of the things that I work with my clients, it's so hard to take away the noise
Mm-hmm.
and the judgment we put on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we think we know what we want. It's a really hard, you really need to dig in deep to feeling and
Hmm.
making sure it's not your mind that's controlling the feeling. It's a fine line, and that's when clarity has to come out, and you need to take time away.
So we have only a couple of more minutes, okay?
Okay.
Okay. And so obviously we're going to do this again, so I'm not really
Yeah.
worried. But that last little bit that you said, if you can put together a, a little vision of, let's say, for an entrepreneur who's under a lot of pressure, listening to this with your entrepreneur experience and passion and your family passion and your passion for wanting to make things work and your purpose. Um, can you just leave us with a little inspiration and maybe one thing that people can do to change what they're doing? And then we're going to have to end it.
The one thing is exactly what I was saying is every time you get to a roadblock and the noise and the stress takes over you
Mm,
and you the fear of losing it all, it's so important. Nothing is going to change within 24 hours or 48. Not all decisions have to be made immediately. Assess it quickly, but stay silent about it. Don't talk to anybody about it. Don't get influenced by anything. Don't look at numbers. Go take a walk. Take your shoes off and put your feet on the ground. And there is something about doing that in terms of the energy field that you get when you get grounded at a moment and you connect to nature, that all of a sudden what you really feel is right will
mm,
come to you, and have the faith that it will. Don't react. Don't
nice.
react. You can end up in a bigger mess. So pulling
Okay,
away sometimes is the best. That's my advice.
great.
Yeah.
So this is part one of many, like we said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope everyone that you took home a few nuggets from this and that you also got to experience Orit's passion and her excitement about her life and what's happening in her life and what she can do to help you in your life as well with all her experience. And Orit, thank you so much for being here with us. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Lovely.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it
yeah,
all. I
yeah,
really love what
yeah.
you're doing.
Okay,
Thank you
great.
for having
Yeah, thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so
me.
much, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye bye.